This video is going to be about simple lab synthesis of chemicals. To start things off, I've decided to make something called hydrobromic acid. There are three commonly used acids in the lab, which are sulfuric acid, muriatic acid or hydrochloric acid, and nitric acid. Strong acid means the acid can completely dissociate into ions in the water. However, hydrobromic acid is even more stronger. When you go down in a group, the atomic radius increases and electronegativity decreases. So bromine atom is larger in size and lower in electronegativity. It means the bond between bromine and hydrogen atom has higher tendency to break. Due to this reason, HBr ionizes more than HCl. In my opinion, hydrobromic acid has some very interesting properties. Bromine ion has some property of reduction, so it can be used to make elemental bromine or bromine solution. This video shows the reaction between hydrobromic acid and nitric acid. Nitric acid is a pretty strong oxidizer, so liquid bromine is formed. Anyway, let's start to do it. Here are all the chemicals and apparatus I am going to use in this video. It only needs two relatively common chemicals in the lab: sodium bromide and sulfuric acid of 60%. I will use sodium hydroxide drain cleaner to deal with the waste gas emission. It also needs a simple distillation apparatus. First, measure 70 ml of 60% sulfuric acid. Don't use concentrated sulfuric acid because it will oxidize bromide into bromine. The second chemical I will use is sodium bromide. To weigh about 40 grams of sodium bromide. Sodium bromide is a white crystal at room temperature. It is similar to table salt in both physical and chemical properties. Next is to mix these two chemicals together and starting to stir them. The color of the solution turns to orange-brown because there's little bromide is oxidized into bromine. But don't worry, simple distillation can help to purify the acid. It should take a while for these two chemicals completely mix each other. I use the time to prepare a cup of strong alkali solution. I use sodium hydroxide drain cleaner. It contains 99% of sodium hydroxide. If you conduct this experiment outdoor, you probably won't need that. After stirring, pour the chemicals into the round bottom flask because we are going to start distillation. In order to condense the vapor, I need to connect to the tap water. And I connect the tube to transfer the waste gas into the sodium hydroxide solution. Now turn on the heat and let it work. The temperature didn't reach the boiling point of water now. At that time, only a small amount of hydrogen bromide vapors come out. It started to boil slightly. There's a small amount of hydrogen bromide vapor in the apparatus. The acid started to condense. The orange liquid starts to boil. I have received my first drop of hydrobromic acid in the receiving flask. Waiting is a long process, so I recorded a time-lapse photography in this video. Though it's still pretty slow. I have waited around an hour. After 50 minutes, there isn't so many reactants left. I have received around 70 ml of hydrobromic acid. After waiting an hour, I finally received 72 ml of hydrobromic acid. And from Google, I know my acid is around 40% in concentration. I first used magnesium to test the acidity of hydrobromic acid. Magnesium reacts very fast with the acid, and the process is quite exothermic. The acid is heated up rapidly. I also use metal manganese to react with the acid. The acid is a little brown because I didn't clean up the test tube well from last time, but it doesn't affect the result. Next, I use silver nitrate solution to test silver bromide precipitation. Different from the white precipitation of silver chloride. Silver bromide is a yellow precipitation. Copper can form a complex ion with bromide. This complex ion has a dark color just like Coke, whereas tetrachlorocuprate ion is a green color. Finally, I will test the reductive property of hydrobromic acid. I pour some hydrobromic acid into nitric acid. This reaction will generate toxic gas, so please do it outside. Normally, acid does not react with acid, but in this case, it is a redox reaction. Nitric acid is a strong oxidizing agent, whereas hydrobromic acid is a reductive reagent. Bromine ions will be oxidized into elemental bromine. This test tube is getting darker and darker, and started to film toxic bromine vapor. You can use sodium thiosulfate to deal with the waste, because thiosulfate is a good reducing agent. Thank you for watching my video. If you have anything you want to see about the chemistry, you can leave a message in the comment area.